I never expected my sister to turn our mother's funeral into another moment to judge me. But that's exactly what she did. Without knowing the truth that would break her pride in seconds, I walked into the church wearing a simple black dress, soft fabric, nothing loud or expensive looking. It was the kind of outfit Mom always loved, quiet, humble, real. Emily stood near the front, glowing in designer brands she bragged about daily. The moment her eyes landed on me, her expression twisted with disgust. She pressed her lips together and whispered loud enough for half the room to hear. "Are you serious? That's what you wore? Today of all days?" A few heads turned toward me, waiting for my reaction. I took a breath and reminded myself I was here for Mom, not for approval. "Mom wouldn't care about clothes," I said softly. Emily rolled her eyes so hard people noticed. "Well, I care. You look cheap. Honestly, it's embarrassing." A sharp sting hit my chest, not because of her words, but because she chose this moment this day to humiliate me. I turned away thinking she'd stop. But she stepped closer, still loud, still cruel. "You couldn't buy something decent? Even just once in your life?" I felt eyes on me. Pity, confusion, judgment. People knew Emily loved showing off, but no one expected her to attack me beside our mother's casket. I kept my voice low. "This isn't about clothes. It's about saying goodbye." She let out a mocking laugh. "Maybe if you took yourself seriously, people would actually respect you." Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Emily always believed I was the failure of the family. She loved luxury brands, Avellini, Hale and Rowe, Heart and Ember. Especially the last one. She wore it like a trophy, always talking about how successful and inspirational the brand's founder was. She had no idea that founder was me. I never shared my success. I kept my identity quiet, choosing privacy over applause. Mom was the only one who knew. And she was the one who always protected me from Emily's bitterness. The service started and I sat alone in the back. Emily strutted to the front row like she owned the room. After the pastor spoke, they asked family members to share a few words. Emily jumped up first. She stood there with perfect posture, blinking fake tears, pretending to be the golden daughter. She talked about Mom's love for excellence, her refined taste, and her high standards. She shot a smug glance at me mid-speech, as if Mom cared about brand labels. When she finished, she returned to her seat with her chin held high. The pastor then asked if anyone else wished to speak. My heart hammered in my chest, but something inside me knew I had to stand. For Mom. For myself. I walked to the podium, feeling Emily's glare burning into my back. I took a slow breath and looked at the people gathered. "My mom," I began softly, "believed in kindness, not status. She taught me that value comes from who you are, not what you wear." A few people lowered their eyes, thinking of Emily's earlier remarks. Mom was the only person who encouraged my dream when nobody else believed in me. I paused as the room fell silent. She knew I was building something. Something I didn't want to show off. Something I wanted to grow quietly. Emily frowned, confused. She told me to keep going, even when others laughed. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. So I did. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small card. It had the logo Heart and Ember. A murmur spread across the church. Everyone recognized that brand. Especially Emily. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. Her face drained of color. "I wasn't going to say this," I continued gently, "because Mom never wanted me to make anyone feel small." I looked directly at my sister. But Mom was the first person I ever told. That I am the founder and owner of Heart and Ember. A loud gasp echoed around the room. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Her designer outfit suddenly looked like armor cracking apart. "She was proud of me," I whispered. "Not because of the company, but because I stayed true to the values she taught us." I stepped down from the podium and walked past Emily. She reached out, grabbing my wrist. Her voice shook. Why didn't you tell me?" I looked her in the eyes, seeing something I hadn't seen in years: fear, shame, regret. "Because every time I tried to share anything good," I said softly, "you turned it into a competition." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I know," I replied. "And that's why it hurt." For the first time in a long time, Emily didn't have a comeback. She just sat there trembling, realizing she had mocked the very brand she worshipped, on the worst day of our lives. Later outside the church she came to me again. No arrogance. No judgment. Just two sisters broken in different ways. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I wish Mom were here to make us better at this." I nodded, feeling a weight finally lift. "She would just want us to try," I said. Emily reached out slowly and hugged me. A real hug. A vulnerable hug. Mom would have been proud. For once, her daughters were not fighting over labels or pride. Just finally, painfully finding each other again. The wind outside the church was cold, brushing against our clothes as if trying to remind us that life keeps moving, even when hearts don't. Emily kept her arms around me a moment longer than I expected. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed to be seen crying. For once I didn't judge her for it. We stood in silence, surrounded by mourners who slowly drifted away. The funeral cars rolled out one by one, leaving us with the heavy quiet that always settles after loss. Emily looked down at her designer heels, twisting her foot slightly like she didn't know what to say next. "I've been horrible to you," she whispered into the ground. I didn't deny it. But I didn't need to throw it in her face either. Grief has its own way of softening people. "I know you didn't mean to ruin today," I said gently. Her shoulders shook with a soft sob. I didn't know you built something so big," she said. I felt a strange ache in my chest. Not pride, not smugness, just sadness. "I didn't want to be treated differently," I told her. "I wanted to be your sister. Not someone you competed with." She swallowed hard, her voice cracking. "But I always thought you looked down on me." That stunned me. "Emily, I never looked down on you." I stepped closer so she could see I meant it. "You just never let me close enough to tell you that." She took a shaky breath, as if the truth had knocked the air out of her. "I guess I was jealous," she admitted. "Of what?" I asked softly. "You always had Mom's heart," she whispered. "And I thought if I dressed better, looked richer, acted stronger, she'd love me more." My breath froze. Of all the things she could have said, this one hit the deepest. "No," I whispered. "Mom loved us the same. You didn't need any of that." Emily's face crumpled. "I didn't know how to be enough," she said through tears. I reached out and held her hands. "You were always enough. Mom wished you could see that." Her tears fell freely now, dripping onto her expensive blouse. The brand she worshipped, the brand I built, felt irrelevant in that moment. We were just two daughters missing the same woman. After a long silence, Emily let out a shaky laugh. "Guess all my bragging about heart and ember must have been embarrassing for you." I smiled faintly. "Actually, it meant more to me than you knew." She blinked. "It did." I nodded. "I got to watch you fall in love with something I made, without comparing me to anyone else." Emily stared at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. "You're amazing," she whispered. I shook my head gently. "I'm just your sister." Her lips trembled. Can I be better at that?" I squeezed her hands. "We both can." The sun dipped lower, casting a soft golden glow across the church steps. It felt like Mom was there, watching us, finally seeing the daughters she always prayed we'd become. A breeze brushed past us, warm despite the season. Emily and I walked toward the car together, not side by side out of obligation, but out of choice. For the first time in years there was no competition. No judgment. No pride. Just two sisters taking slow, uncertain steps toward healing. As we reached the parking lot, Emily glanced at me with a small smile. "You know," she said, "I'd love to see your studio sometime." I felt a warmth spread through my chest. "I'd love to show you." She nodded, wiping her final tear. "And maybe we can build something together now." I smiled softly. "We already are." We got into the car, and for the first time in a long time, the silence between us didn't feel heavy. It felt hopeful. A new chapter starting, right where everything had once fallen apart. As Emily drove us home, the sky outside shifted from gold to deep blue, the kind of soft evening color Mom always loved. The radio played quietly, something slow and comforting, and for once, Emily didn't fill the silence with complaints or bragging. Her hands rested lightly on the steering wheel, relaxed instead of tense. I watched her from the passenger seat, noticing how different she looked without the mask she usually wore. Not the glamorous, perfect sister everyone admired, just a girl who had lost her mother and was trying to understand her sister. After a long moment she spoke. "Can I ask you something?" I turned toward her. "Anything." She bit her lip nervously, a habit she hadn't shown since childhood. "Why did Mom never tell me about your company?" I looked down at my hands. "Because I asked her not to." Emily frowned. "But why?" I sighed gently. "Because you always felt like everything was a competition, and Mom didn't want to hurt you." "Yes," I said. "I'd like that more than you know." She pulled me into a gentle hug before stepping into the cool night air. I watched her walk away, her steps slower, softer, as if she was shedding the weight of years in each step. And as I closed the door behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The kind Mom wanted for both of us. The next morning I woke up early, the sunlight slipping through the curtains in thin golden lines. For the first time in a long while, the air in my home didn't feel heavy or lonely. I walked into the kitchen and made coffee, thinking about everything Emily and I said the night before. There was still pain between us. Years of distance, misunderstandings, jealousy. But now there was finally something else too. A beginning. My phone buzzed on the counter. It was Emily. A simple message. "Good morning. Can I take you to breakfast?" I smiled softly, surprised by how natural it felt. I texted back. "Sure. Meet you in 30. When she arrived, she didn't show up dressed like she was attending a fashion show. She wore a simple sweater, jeans, barely any makeup. It felt like meeting the version of her mom always missed. "Hey," she said shyly. "Hey," I replied, letting her see I was glad she came. We drove to a small cafe near the harbor, the kind Mom used to take us to on quiet Sundays. The smell of fresh pastries and warm coffee filled the air as we walked in. Emily picked a table by the window overlooking the water. As we sat, she took a deep breath. "I want to ask you something, but I don't want you to think I'm being fake." I raised my eyebrows slightly. "Okay. Ask." She looked me straight in the eyes, honest, nervous, vulnerable. "Will you show me your workspace someday? The place where you design everything?" Her voice trembled slightly, like she was asking for permission to enter a world she never knew existed. I felt a warmth inside my chest. "I'd love to," I said. A small breath escaped her lips, almost like relief. "I want to understand you," she added quietly. "And maybe, I want to understand myself too." Our food arrived, pancakes for her, eggs and toast for me. Just like when we were kids. For a while we ate in silence, but it wasn't tense like before. It was peaceful, comfortable. Halfway through her meal, Emily spoke again. "You know, for years I thought the only way people would take me seriously was if I looked perfect." She stared down at her plate. "But yesterday, seeing how people listened to you when you spoke about Mom, it made me realize something." I waited quietly. "That confidence you have, it isn't about brands or money. It's something real." Her voice softened. "And I want to learn that." I reached across the table and placed my hand over hers. "You don't need to learn it," I said gently. "It was always in you. You just buried it under things you thought mattered." Her eyes glistened with emotion. "Do you really think so?" "I know so." She let out a shaky exhale. "I want to be better," she said. "For Mom. And for you." A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. "Then we'll do it together." Emily smiled. An honest, soft smile I hadn't seen since we were teenagers. We finished breakfast slowly, savoring the rare peace between us. When we stepped outside, the breeze was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of the ocean. Emily looped her arm through mine like she used to when she was little. "I miss this," she whispered. "Me too," I said. As we walked toward the car, she glanced at me again. "Can I ask you one more thing?" I laughed softly. "You're full of questions today." She nudged my shoulder. "I mean it. It's important." "Okay. What is it?" She hesitated, then looked at me with hopeful eyes. "Would you teach me? Not just about fashion, but about the things you've learned. About life." The question sank deep into my heart. "I will," I said. "And we'll grow from here. Both of us." She nodded, wiping a small tear away before it fell. "Mom would love this," she whispered. I looked out at the water, shimmering gently in the morning light. She would, I said. And for the first time in years, I felt like we were finally becoming the sisters she always wanted us to be. Later that week, Emily texted me again. Not with criticism, not with gossip, just a simple, warm message. Can I come see your studio today? My heart felt strangely full. For years, I had worked behind closed doors, sketching, sewing, building a brand in silence. A brand my own sister adored without knowing its roots. But now, she wanted to understand me, not judge me. So I replied, yes, come at 3. When she arrived, she was almost hesitant, like she didn't want to step into my world without permission. Her eyes widened as she looked around the studio. Mannequins dressed in half-finished designs, sewing machines, stacks of fabric, mood boards pinned with ideas and inspirations. It was messy in a beautiful way, full of life and creativity. Emily walked slowly, touching a piece of fabric the way someone touches something sacred. You made all this, she whispered. I nodded. Her jaw tightened and her eyes softened. It's beautiful, she said. Her voice cracked. And I'm sorry I never took the time to see who you really are. I stepped beside her. You can see it now. She turned to me, blinking back tears. Can you show me how you do it? How you start? So I pulled out a fresh sketch pad and a pencil. I placed them in front of her. Start with what you feel, I said. Not what people expect. Emily hesitated, then drew a curved line. Then another. Her hand shook, but she kept going, tracing the outline of a dress. It was simple, nothing groundbreaking. But it was hers. From her heart. When she finished, she pushed the sketch toward me nervously. What do you think? I smiled gently. I think Mom would love it. Emily covered her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. I miss her, she whispered. Every second, I replied. We sat together, letting the silence between us become something gentle instead of sharp. She wiped her eyes and looked around again. You know, all those times I showed off my outfits, bragged about this brand, worshipped every new campaign. She laughed weakly. I can't believe it was you. I didn't need recognition, I said softly. I just needed purpose. Emily's gaze drifted across my designs. You built something real, she whispered. And I pretended to be something I wasn't. I placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't need to pretend anymore. She took a shaky breath. I want to help, she said. Maybe not designing, God knows I'm not you. But something. Anything. I want to be part of your world. Not outside of it looking in. My chest tightened with emotion. Are you sure? She nodded firmly. Yes. I want to earn your trust. I want to grow. And I want to be family again. I handed her a fabric swatch book. Then let's start small. Why don't you choose colors for the spring line? Her eyes lit up like a child given her first paintbrush. Really? Really? I said with a smile. She flipped through the swatches carefully, choosing shades of soft peach, dusty blue, gentle olive. Colors Mom used to wear. This feels right, she said. It feels like healing. We worked together for hours. She learning my world piece by piece. Me watching her melt into a softer, kinder version of herself with every passing minute. At one point, she looked up from the colors and said, I always thought you kept your distance because you didn't like me. Those words hurt in a way I didn't expect. No, Emily. I kept my distance because I didn't know how to protect myself from your criticism. She lowered her head, ashamed. I didn't realize how cruel I was. It wasn't always cruelty, I said gently. Sometimes it was insecurity. Sometimes it was fear. I just wish you had felt safe enough to tell me. Her voice cracked. I never felt like I was enough. I took her hand. You're enough for me. And you were always enough for Mom. That broke her. And she finally cried, not quietly, not politely, but deeply. She cried for Mom. For the years we lost. For the sisterhood we never nurtured. For the pain we didn't acknowledge. I held her, tears slipping down my own face. I'm here, I whispered. And I'm not going anywhere. Eventually her breathing softened. She wiped her cheeks and whispered, Thank you for not giving up on me. I smiled. I almost did. But Mom wouldn't have wanted that. Emily nodded, fresh tears in her eyes. I want to be someone she'd be proud of. You already are, I said. You just needed to see yourself the way she saw you. She hugged me tightly, clinging like she was afraid to let go. For the first time in our lives, we weren't two sisters competing, or two women pretending, or two daughters grieving separately. We were family again, learning each other, healing each other, becoming the version of sisters Mom always hoped we'd grow into. And as the sun set outside my studio, washing the room in a warm golden glow, I realized something I never expected to feel. Hope. For us. For our future. For the family we were finally becoming. Not the one we lost, but the one we were building. Together. A few days later, Emily surprised me again. She showed up at my studio with 2 coffees, both exactly the way we used to drink them when we were younger. She handed one to me with a small, hopeful smile. I remembered, she said softly. I took the cup and felt an unexpected warmth in my chest. Thank you, I said. She nodded, awkward but really trying. We sat at my work table, surrounded by fabrics and sketches. She watched me draw for a moment, then spoke quietly. When Mom got sick, I didn't know how to help her. Her voice trembled. I kept buying her gifts. Clothes, jewelry, things she never needed. I looked at her gently. You helped her in your own way. Emily shook her head. No. I avoided the hard stuff. You were the one who cooked for her, sat with her through the worst nights, helped her with meds. She swallowed hard. And I was too scared to face it. I closed my notebook. You were scared of losing her. Emily blinked rapidly, fighting tears. I still feel guilty. I reached out and touched her hand. You loved her. That's what mattered. She wiped her cheek quickly. Do you think she forgave me? Yes, I whispered. And she wanted us to forgive each other too. Emily leaned back in the chair, letting her emotions settle. After a long pause, she asked something unexpected. Can I help with your next photo shoot? I raised my eyebrows in surprise. You want to be on set? Her cheeks flushed lightly. I want to learn. Not to control anything. Just to understand how you create. Her sincerity made my heart soften. I'd love for you to be there. When the day of the photo shoot arrived, Emily showed up on time. No fancy outfit, no dramatic entrance, no superiority. Just Emily. Curious. Open. Ready to help. She watched as I directed models, adjusted fabrics, fixed lighting angles, managed the team. For the first time, she saw that my world wasn't glamorous perfection. It was hard work, responsibility, creativity mixed with exhaustion. At one point, she walked over to me slowly, her eyes shining. This is incredible, she whispered. I didn't know you did all this. I laughed softly. You never asked. She bit her lip, embarrassed. I should have. It's okay, I said. You're here now. Throughout the shoot, Emily carried garment bags, brought water to the models, took behind-the-scenes photos, and asked thoughtful questions. My team loved her polite, gentle attitude. So different from the loud, competitive version of her everyone expected. During a break, she came up to me shyly. I know I used to brag about labels, she said. But today, watching all this, I realized something. What's that? I asked. She pointed around at the set, the clothes, the work happening everywhere. This brand isn't about showing off. It's about feeling something. I froze for a moment. She understood. Finally, Emily continued quietly. I always hid behind clothes because I didn't feel good inside. But you create clothes that make people feel strong. Her voice cracked with emotion. I'm proud of you. The words hit me harder than I expected. I felt tears blur my vision. Thank you, I whispered. No, really, she said, stepping closer. I'm proud to be your sister. We hugged in the middle of the studio. A real hug. Not tense. Not jealous. Not filled with old resentment. For the first time, it felt like we were embracing each other. Not our differences. Not our wounds. Just each other. Later, as we packed up for the day, Emily grabbed one of my early sketches. A simple design I had drawn years ago when I was struggling and broke. She held it gently. You kept this, she asked. It was the moment I believed in myself, I said softly. And now? I looked at her with a grateful smile. Now I believe in us. Emily's eyes filled with tears again. We're really doing this, aren't we? We are, I said. Finally. As she helped me load boxes into the car, she suddenly paused and looked at the sky, a warm pink sunset stretching across the horizon. Mom would love this color, she whispered. I followed her gaze. She would. Emily took a deep breath. I think she's watching us. A soft wind swept past us just then, warm and gentle. I felt a shiver run through me. Yeah, I whispered. I think so too. We stood together in the parking lot. Two sisters rediscovering each other. Two hearts learning how to heal. Two lives finally aligning after years of distance. Not because of fashion. Not because of success. Not because of pride. But because grief broke us open. And love stitched us back together. I could see the anger rising in Emily's face as whispers spread across the room. Her perfect image, the one she protected like a fragile glass statue, was cracking. She stepped closer to me, her voice low but filled with fury. You think you're better than me now? I shook my head slowly. No, Emily. I never wanted to be better. I just wanted us to be sisters. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. Came out sharp, cold like a blade. Oh please. You kept secrets. You let people think you were some nobody who failed at life. I let out a tired breath. I never told you because every time I tried to share something good, you turned it into a competition. Her lips pressed tightly together. She wasn't denying it because she knew it was true. You could have trusted me, she said, but her voice trembled now. I tried, I whispered. But you only loved the version of me you could look down on. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a second, she looked like the sister I used to know. The one who held my hand when I was scared of storms. The one who stayed up with me during our parents' divorce. The one Mom always said had a good heart underneath the jealousy. Emily swallowed hard and looked away. Everyone's staring at us, she muttered, wiping her cheek quickly. Let them, I replied gently. For once, let them see the truth. She hugged her arms around herself, suddenly small. I didn't know you built something that big, she said quietly. I didn't know you were successful. I stepped closer so she couldn't escape the honesty in my eyes. Success doesn't make me better than you. It never did. She stared down at my dress, touching the fabric like it was something sacred. This feels different, she whispered. It's the first sample I ever made, I said softly. Mom loved it. She said it made me look hopeful. Emily's throat tightened, and she pressed her hand to her mouth as tears finally broke free. She knew, she asked, voice cracking. Of course she knew, I said. She supported me every step. Emily shook her head, overwhelmed. All this time, I thought she loved you more. My chest tightened. No, Emily. She didn't love me more. She just loved you differently. She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. I miss her, she said. Her voice so soft it broke my heart. I miss her too. For the first time since the funeral began, we stood close. Not as rivals, but as two broken daughters trying to hold on to the last piece of our mother. Emily reached for my hand hesitantly. I let her. Her fingers were cold, shaking, but she held on tightly like she was afraid I'd disappear again. We walked toward Mom's portrait together, standing side by side. People watched, but no one judged this time. All they saw were two sisters, finally letting go of years of bitterness. Emily whispered, I'm proud of you, and hearing those words from her, it felt like a wound finally closing. I squeezed her hand gently. We can start over, I said. She nodded, and for the first time in years, her smile wasn't forced or jealous. It was real. And in that moment I knew that Mom, wherever she was, finally had the peace she always wanted for us. After the service ended, people slowly drifted out of the church, offering condolences as they passed. Emily and I stayed behind, standing in the quiet echo of the room. For the first time in years, the silence between us didn't feel hostile. Just my sister. The girl I grew up fighting over cereal boxes with. She touched the sleeve of my dress again, smiling faintly. It's crazy, she said softly. I spent half my paycheck on this brand. And the whole time it was yours. I let out a small laugh. Life's funny like that. Her smile faded into something gentler. Something real. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. For today. For the years I treated you like you were less. The apology hit deeper than she understood. I waited so long for those words that hearing them now felt like a dam finally breaking inside me. I stepped toward her and rested my forehead against hers, something we hadn't done since childhood. "I forgive you," I whispered. Emily let out a breath that sounded like relief and grief mixed together. "I thought you hated me," she said. "I never hated you," I replied. "I hated how you saw me." Her eyes filled again, but this time with understanding instead of jealousy. She linked her arm through mine as we walked toward the exit. Outside, the wind was cool, brushing against us like Mom's hand on our shoulders. Emily stopped before we reached the car. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything. Why didn't you ever tell me? About your company. About everything." I looked up at the sky, swallowing the knot in my throat. "Because I was scared you'd leave me behind," I said honestly. "But I guess you already did when you decided I was beneath you." She flinched, but she nodded. "I did," she admitted. "I didn't mean to, but I did." We stood there for a moment, letting the truth settle between us. Then she surprised me with a soft laugh. "You know," she said, "Mom would be yelling at both of us right now." I laughed too. "Yeah. She'd probably smack us with her purse." "Hard," Emily added. We shared a long, warm silence. Just us. No drama. No labels. Just sisters. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to, but because it felt so unfamiliar. But then I saw the sincerity in her eyes. And I nodded. "I'd like that." She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. We walked to her car together side by side, a little closer than before. Felt like a beginning. A fragile one. But a beginning nonetheless. As she held the door open for me, she gave me a small teasing smirk. "You know," she said, "you really should have told me. I could have bragged about you instead of tearing you down." I shook my head with a smile. "Maybe it's better this way. You learned who I was without the brand." She looked thoughtful for a moment. "Yeah," she said. "And I like this version better." We both got in the car. And as she started the engine, I felt a strange warmth spreading through my chest. Hope. Something I hadn't felt about us in years. And as we drove away from the church, I whispered a quiet promise to myself, to protect this new beginning no matter how fragile it was. Life is not measured by labels, wealth, or outward appearances. True value lies in the heart, in the love we give, and the kindness we show. This story reminds us that jealousy and pride can blind us to the achievements and struggles of those we care about. Mocking or belittling someone never brings satisfaction. Only distance and regret. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It takes courage to let go of past hurt and to rebuild trust with those who have wronged us. Even when relationships are strained, there is always an opportunity to reconnect and heal. Honesty, compassion, and empathy are the bridges that can restore bonds once broken. Grief exposes our vulnerabilities, but it also teaches us the importance of family, love, and understanding. We learn acknowledging the worth of others, celebrating their journey, and standing by them in their triumphs and failures is what truly matters. At its core, this story teaches that love, forgiveness, and empathy are stronger than pride, competition, or resentment. It is a reminder to cherish those closest to us, to embrace their successes, and to rebuild broken connections with patience and an open heart. Family in its truest sense is measured by love, not by labels or appearances.